he says.
Ah, there we go. Got it.
I've liked the video, don't worry.
Okay, so are you live?
I'm recording it now.
Okay, cool. Right. All right, so the comments should be on now, since the comments should be all on for anybody who's watching, because I kind of fixed it.
Oh, there's 2 people watching apparently. Hey.
Good.
I like
this. Let me switch this really quick.
Spelled it wrong.
Oh boy, this is a mess. Oh, and for those people that are... Okay, there we go. Awesome. I'll do that. Boom. That way I have the chat right here. So, if you're wondering why I didn't have the... for those people listening out there, the comment section was turned off. I kept trying to... I thought it was maybe a bug at first, because I kept trying to allow the chat, and then as soon as you go on, it would mark it as disabled. So, just, what was going on, I wasn't able to change it in the middle of the live stream once we went on. And I found out that if you switch it to, on the settings when you're getting prepared for your live stream, if you switch it to viewable for kids.
Oh, okay.
Don't really, we don't talk about anything bad, It's just a gaming thing, and kids are allowed, to watch the live stream and everything. But if you mark that as okay, like kids are okay to watch this, the comments are automatically disabled, and you cannot change that. Which is really weird, because I feel like it would be the exact opposite. If it was okay, then the comments, So
I always select not suitable for kids, just so I don't have to even think about anything being a bit.
Yeah.
PC.
So I guess I switched that to it's not for kids, and now we can have live chats. So anyway, yeah. But we got this all ready to go and everything. So I don't really know what we're going to talk about. If you have anything to talk about, I have some questions though topic points.
I've been listening to that podcast again, which is really good. We've probably mentioned it every time now, but
yeah, I'll just mention it again. If you have Spotify, go on there and look up key battles of the Civil War. I think it's just Civil War. I don't think it's American Civil War. Really good podcast on there. It's just a generalization of key battles. I think there's like 30 episodes, so it just goes through both theaters, the Western and Eastern theater, and it touches a little bit on specific points like African Americans during this time. A little bit, one episode on the entire naval warfare, because there's not really much naval, and stuff like that. So I'd go check it out. It's really good. That's actually how I started learning about the American Civil War, when I started really getting into it, when I started my 6mm project. So I highly recommend it.
I found
Spotify.
I found it really good, just because they talk about. I don't know whether maybe because I just don't know much about it, because we don't really learn much about it over here. But there's just so many little things you don't realise. So like they kind of have when they've done a series about all the presidents in the. I'm not sure if you've seen that series.
Presidential Fight Club?
Yeah, Presidential Fight Club. And they always refer to it, and it's funny how through the American Civil War you've just got so many key characters just popping up every now and then, and they're disappearing, and it's all really interesting. So, but it's just good. It's good for just getting other names out there, like learning other names of generals and key characters, which you don't know too much about, and then all of a sudden they're really great at just explaining it. And from someone who doesn't know anything going into it, it's just really good to kind of, especially if you're building like a 6mm army, you're putting names to faces.
Yeah.
Which is
brilliant. Plus, like if you're like me and you really love that immersive experience, it's really good to, hey, I know a lot about that general that's right there.
Exactly.
It's badass. Like Hood or something like that. And you can, think like, oh, I'm fighting the Battle of Gaines Mill or something. And he's got one leg right now, and he's gonna lose his arm in this one. He loses his arm at Gettysburg, not Gaines Mill. But anyway, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So,
No,
and
yeah.
plus, a lot of those guys like Custer have a large Custer and Sheridan who have things going on later in American history. So.
Which, yeah, so like I said, if you're gaming, all of a sudden now you can now put a story to your character on the table. So you've got your general, and now I don't know, adds a bit more to the game really. Makes the armies a bit more alive, which is really cool. So.
Which I feel like if you like that immersion and then that your own like sort of characteristicness, I think is a word, for 6mm, which is so small, so you can't really see the guy himself, and it takes away some of that immersion. I think it might bring some of that back, because that's why I like 28mm is because they're bigger guys, and you can see them, you can see their facial expressions. It's a lot more personal, a lot more up there, than 6mm.
But also in American Civil War, where generals are such big characters, it's nice just, if you were to play an American Civil War game where it's just, General A is taking on General B, then you kind of gutted what the American Civil War is, really. You've taken pretty much all of it out, so it's nice having, even if the Altar of Freedom rules that I want to use, they've got a really great way of personalising each general. But if you can add on top of that, that would just make it so much more fun. And I imagine if you're going to get to play a game, it's not going to be like Warhammer 40k where it's 1,000 points against 1,000 points or whatever. Probably more. No. It's going to be like story against story, which I like to think the player you're going to play against is probably going to be up for telling stories of each general. What's that, sorry? Well,
you could do a point system, though.
With Altar of Freedom, you can, yeah.
Yeah, even though, what's his name?
Greg.
Is not fond of it. And in the rule set, he makes it very clear in the writing, in the text, that he's not for making points. This is, a historical game with historical scenarios.
Yeah, it might be good if you want to maybe... I've only looked at I only had a quick gander at his Eastern Theatre Army battle pack, which you can buy for like 10 quid PDF, and he's got a Western as well. But I don't know if he's done every battle in the Civil War. So if you want to maybe recreate a smaller engagement that he hasn't looked at because it wasn't as significant as all these big battles, then I guess you could. Well, actually, you wouldn't really need a point system if you're historically doing it. But if you wanted to run a campaign, say, where you want to kind of ignore the historicalness and try replay certain things, you could. Yeah, I don't know. But it's there for people who want to use it. But I imagine the majority of people playing Altar of Freedom are playing it for the historical.
Well, the rule set that I've been working on for the past 2 years now for 6mm ACW. Of course, I'm a big Total War player, so I like the whole a game within a game. You have the campaign, and you move your armies around, and you need things like recruitment points, enlistment points, which or revival points or something. I forget what I call it in the game, but or like food. You need food for your armies and everything.
Supply lines and stuff. Yeah.
Supply lines, and you also have the capitals, and you have rivers and railway systems where you can move your armies faster and everything. I really like that, and you kind of move your armies around on the big scale, on all throughout these states, And then when you guys collab, then you go in and then you play a battle with the miniatures and all that, which that's what I got going on for mine, which is kind of a hard thing to figure out.
But that's something I would definitely want to look at doing. That's really cool. So I got two stories about it. So someone's just put on Facebook, I shared with my mates, they did a campaign, or like a solo campaign for the quarantine. So they're kind of saying you've got a battle map, key places on it, and everyone has an army, say, and you get given a set army, you can have it. I think they aimed at ancients or medieval, and you solo play your games and then tell him the results, and then he'll plot it on the map. So he's almost like a dungeon master, almost. He's controlling the map.
Yeah.
And you kind of, and then you say you want to be moving armies, taking key points, and I guess each points give, like say, certain towns or cities will give you bonuses, and it's really interesting. And it's kind of like that campaign style where you've got a campaign map, but then you take it into an actual game when you're fighting. A bit like I said, basically Total War, which is really cool. But another story. So someone I know did recreate the Normandy landings. And they had the whole of Normandy on a map, and it's all done into hexagonals. And they used, I think they just used probably like little post-it notes to represent each. I don't know what the smallest unit they used, division or something. Yeah. And he plotted, so they did the landings, and then every time they came into engagement, they did a battle. I don't know what rule set they used, and it was going on for months and months and months, and they were playing out the whole Normandy campaign. If I'll find I got the photos of it because it looked incredible. And I'll send them over to you on Skype. But
yes, I want to see that.
It was really good. They maybe they used. I think they maybe made their own rule set for the campaign, but they put it online for free to people to play, and it was really cool. Yeah. And it's just something that they every weekend they were playing 2 or 3 battles out of this. But then obviously armies depleted, so they dealt with that as people took casualties and units would get smaller and stuff, which is really cool. So.
I know how big of a Project Wargamer or Project Wargaming fan that you are. It kind of reminds me of his D-Day 6mm D-Day. That amazing stuff, and his Stalingrad one's really.
I've seen that his I think I watched him showing off his board he did for the D-Day, but I've seen the Stalingrad, but I don't know if I've seen much of his D-Day stuff. Again, I watched a lot of him just for his American Civil War, and at the moment I've got a big bug for Civil War, so
that's what I watched. That's some of the videos that I watched when I was researching which ones to get, Bacchus or Adler, and the same video that you watched, that he compares those really, really well, and go see it, Project Wargaming.
Because of his video is how I chose my army. So really
exactly.
Good.
And that's how I was Adler. So
very good video, and it
Speaking about Adler, got some good news, at least for me, but it might be for other people out there because they will get a lot more content. But I sent in a message because on the 10th, which was when they were supposed to get back up on production because they were revamping or something like that. I sent in my order for my French army for my Napoleonics, just the French for now, and then later on, once I finish one project, then I'll get the Austrians or Prussians or Russians, whatever I feel like I want to get first. Just get a whole bulk of it. But anyway. Ordered the French, and I sent him a message because I haven't heard anything, and it was like, hey, are you guys shut down right now because of what's going on?
Yeah.
And he's like, he responds with, your order's all ready to dispatch. Here's how much, and I'll ship it out. And I was like, oh, sweet. Nice. Yeah. So I was like, so I got that done, paid for it today, and should be here maybe next weekend or maybe a week and a half.
Yeah.
How long it takes, because it is. I would say it's coming from the UK, but I'm not too sure because I think I paid through PayPal, GBP, which is German.
No, Great British Pound.
Is it Great British Pound? Oh.
Yeah, okay. GBP is our money. Yeah. Right, I assume it means Great British Pound. I don't know. That was a complete guess, but.
No. I think you're right.
Yeah.
As I was saying that, as it was coming out of my mouth, I was like, no, this is wrong, because I was like, Germany uses euro. So
yeah. That sounds like a quite quick turnaround then from your order. Because when did you send it?
The 10th of March. I guess it took a little. It was a little bit longer because I did order mine for my birthday for my 21st. That was around the 26th, or maybe it was before that. I think it was maybe in the middle of February, and then they were doing renovations and they wouldn't be back up until March 10th. So then I sent in my order, and then so it just I got. Yeah.
That's not well. It's nice that's coming along.
I tell you what, it was put a smile on my face because I was sitting there waiting for a response like, we're on back order, which he did say he was on back order, which I suspected and you suspected as well, and I'm as friendly as possible with them because they do great work, which I give them big fat orders of individual guys, so they have to. Because I think it's just a one-man band, and he has to pick all those individual strips, which now because you got some Adler, and put them in a baggie and send them. So
so Adler's really weird how they do it, aren't they? Because you compare it to Bacchus. If you buy Bacchus, they sell you. They said if I want to buy an infantry group, it's £7 or £6 plus VAT. I think it works out like £7 something or other, and you get 20 infantry strips and 4 command strips. Well, obviously, if you buy an Adler, you pay per strip. So you can have as many strips, which is probably better if you're tailor building an army. If you want 72 strips, then you don't have to overbuy or whatever. You can.
You ordering from Adler? This is the best. This is the best thing you can have. Best thing you can have.
It took me ages to figure out.
A lot of calculations and writing down that I have to do before I send the order.
It took me ages to figure out how their prices work as well. Because if you go on the American Civil War price list, it doesn't. It just says, say, I don't know, ACW1 strip, and then it'll be like D next to it, and you're like, well, what's D mean? So you go down and it goes D means 35, and you're like, well, what's 35 mean? And it wasn't until I think I went onto their other price list, and then it shows you it's in British pennies.
Yeah.
Like, oh, right. Okay. For ages,
it's
I was
good
like, well...
to print them out, print out the catalog. I have it down here somewhere. But
well, I mean, if I'm... Admittedly, I've got a lot of Adler now, but if I find I really like the Adler, the cavalry looks really nice. The only problem with Adler...
Personalities look nice. The general personalities.
So I've got a couple of the personality packs, quite a few command packs, so I think I should be set for commanders, cavalry, and cannons now. But the only thing I've noticed is Adler...
I think you have definitely enough cavalry.
Yeah. Well, I only had a quick look, but I think I'd need like 3-4 divisions of cavalry, which I was going to use 9 men per division, so 9 men per brigade, and I reckon I need 3 or 4 brigades, maybe. I don't know. I've got to look. I haven't bought the other battle pack for Altar of Freedom. I was going to buy the Eastern Theatre battle pack, which is like, I don't know, 12 battles or something like that. So then I'll be able to kind of have a look through and see what cav I need for that, and maybe look at doing the Eastern Theatre.
Yeah.
If I can get someone to play with me, I'll probably try do the whole Civil War from start to finish.
Do that campaign kind of thing that I was talking about,
I mean,
but I guess that's kind of, it's not historical.
What I would like to do is get all the battles and do every battle.
Well, that's why you had that book that I told you to get.
Yeah, so I was looking at possibly starting with Shiloh. I looked at maybe trying to do Fort Sumter, but so I was looking in the atlas.
Yeah.
To look at how to do it, but it could be a lot more work, so I haven't.
Yeah, show that book again.
Yeah, so
this is what I told him to get. If you're looking into the American Civil War, it's an atlas. So if you don't know what an atlas is, it shows every single battlefield where people were during that battlefield. It also has the campaigns too. So if you want to do a campaign with multiple battles and even small battles, that book definitely get it. Which James McPherson, who wrote one of the best Civil War books ever, The Altar of Freedom, the Atlas of the Civil War, and you can get it super cheap on Amazon.
I think I paid £8 for it. I think.
Yeah, because I got it used on Amazon as well, and I think it cost me maybe like a little bit over, maybe $10 or something like
Yeah.
that. And it's definitely worth it.
Well, my book was used, but it seemed like the outer cover. It's got this like paper cover. That seems a bit tatty, but the book itself looks brand new.
Yeah.
I can't find any markings on it. So, and I looked on Amazon and it was about £13. So then I went on eBay and they were about £11, and I thought, oh, I'll buy it.
I got mine right here.
The Bible.
This is a must-have for Wargamers, the American Civil War. Get this book.
Yeah, I got it really cheap. So, but yeah, I was looking at. So, ideally, I was thinking of maybe, if I wanted to, is try build a Union army, because I've got a mate that I know would play it, but obviously probably wouldn't want to commit into doing 6 mil. And I thought it'd be interesting, because he knows nothing about the Civil War, try play out a battle, whereas I know historically what happens, so I could maybe control the Confederates historically, and then see how he would react a bit as a Union commander, which I thought could be cool. Because I'd like to do some like battle reports.
Are you saying that you would want to do a battle to where what the Confederates do, and the Union have to he has to really think about what am I going to do?
Yeah, so because obviously you've always got that feeling of in the start of the Eastern Theatre how, well, with like Johnston and Lee, they tend to kind of outsmart the Union a lot. So it'd kind of be cool to say have me as a Confederate commander, knowing historically what they do. So kind of getting in the brains of the Confederates and then using someone who doesn't know about American Civil War to play a Union commander, because the Union generals always seem a bit inept.
Yeah,
so it'd be quite interesting to see kind of if they fall for the same things.
Well, what I would recommend is if you want to do a battle to where, and this is all based on you as the Confederates, they as the Union, Antietam, if you're wanting to have your opponent, the Union, make his own decision making at his own time, because you as the Confederates are hanging behind the Antietam River, and you're just sitting there waiting for his attack. Another good one, which the roles are flipped, would be Chancellorsville, because Jackson makes his his amazing stealthy flanking move, where he doesn't know that it's coming, and then you just charge right at him and surprise him on his side, and then he has to really think about what to do. And then a good even one, which there's a lot of troops that have to be involved in it, but Gettysburg, because throughout the Gettysburg, you can cut them into days, like they were, and plus throughout the day, you continuously have corps showing up. You get a corps, I get a corps, you get a corps, I get a. And that's a really good training, even though it's one of the biggest battles, if not the biggest. You can kind of, it's easy paced, because you can one kind of corps or even division at a time, and kind of learn the ropes and everything. So because it starts off so small and then gradually gets bigger and bigger throughout the day,
Yeah, it's kind of ease into it. That'd be good fun. I've got someone in my local games club he's got a Union army, which I think he started a while ago and hasn't really used it since. And then I put on there on Facebook the other day on our group saying, hey, I'm looking to play Auto of Freedom. I've got a Confederate army, who's about? And obviously no one replied. And then this guy, like 2 weeks later, who's like, oh yeah, I'm building up a Union army, so I'd love to give it a go. I'll just have to finish it up. And I was like, oh, brilliant. So hopefully I build up my army.
But that depends on if he's in Bristol, though, right?
Hey, sorry? Only works if he's in Bristol.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So he said, so my local game club was like 20 minutes down the road, so he's going to be somewhere near there, so we can meet up there and play. Which, I've got to build my army up, because my army's not really big enough from what I've got so far. I've barely got a division, so which I was looking at like some of the smaller battles. Well, I was looking at Shiloh. I'm not that far off having an army for Shiloh, but
yeah.
But I kind of think if I really enjoy doing the 6 mil, which I am, and I get through the Confederate army, I might look at starting a Union army, and then I don't have to worry about waiting for someone to build a Union army. I can have it, and
Well, Civil War is pretty easy to paint. It's just, it's a little more difficult if you're trying to be more historically accurate, like me with my Confederates.
Yeah.
There's just each guy has a different color. Well, most likely, like and each brigade has. I grab a certain amount of colors that I want, and then I paint that brigade or the few brigades. So each brigade sort of has like a whole different paint scheme, even though you can't see it at first glance. But if you really look at it, they have different uniforms because the way that the Confederates clothed their men was, they were volunteers from certain states, and so when they were made up and they were training from that state, it was whatever they could grab around that state. So other states could have different materials that had different colors, and so you could have Texans who had a lot of butternut uniforms, and then others like Virginia that had more, because they had a lot more military academy stuff in Virginia, that they had a lot more gray. They had a lot more cappies instead of slouch hats, So you got you really want to get into it.
So I've gone for the more the like movie Confederates. Yeah. So they're all kind of a mixed match of greys and butternuts and maybe a couple of browns.
History Channel documentary uniforms.
That's it. So I've noticed some people are going like certain brigades having a certain colour schemes and stuff, which I think is really cool. But like with my Confederates, they didn't take too much time at all because I went and I primed them grey, which is the easiest thing to do, and then I just hit a couple of butternuts on there and then a couple of browns and then washed it and it was done. So rather than having to put more time into it, especially on like 6mm when but me and you, we just want massive armies like grand scale. Then it's nice just kind of throwing them together really easy and quick. I was going to say, so you were saying about like different uniforms. Have you ever had the 28mm Perry's Civil War stuff?
I have, actually. I don't really have a story about that. So
So, but the Confederate troops have the same like little thing. So it says each like regiment or whatever what colours they would have. This is the Zouaves, but so it's a really good kind of thing to go off.
I have actually.
Mine's up in the loft now.
The Continental American.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
This one is jam-packed with a lot of goodness. A lot of goodness. But anyway, actually, the Perry Miniatures ACW was actually my first historical miniatures I ever bought.
Oh, nice.
And guess where I bought them? At a model shop store in Gettysburg.
Oh, really? Oh, nice.
Yep. Because I started with 40K, like we all do.
Yeah.
And I think I was in 5th grade at the time. And then 6th grade, my grandfather was accepted into this group that was digging over on a battlefield in Virginia. And so, of course, he was like, "Hey, I know you're a historical buff because you're just like me. Why don't we go over and see Manassas and Gettysburg and all that?" And so, went over there, and there was a little model shop there, and they had some Perry miniatures. And so I got two of the regular infantry, like the old school, ones where they're all firing or sitting there marching, not the cool ones that they have nowadays where they're like charging or whatever. The more updated ones. And then I got a cavalry box, and then I got the Zouaves. So the Zouaves were awesome, and I still have them.
Yeah, I haven't bought any cavalry of Perry's yet, but I've got the Zouaves, the box you were just saying, and then the Confederate box.
I love how you paint how you painted those Perry miniature guys. Looking at your previous videos, there's just something about them, the colors or whatever. I'm like, that looks nice. That looks good.
Yeah, I went like super. Well, I say super basic. I tried to keep it pretty simple, and then you don't, because there's so many miniatures, especially 28mm. Like the Zouaves tested me. Like I did them in 2 batches, but when you spend like 7 hours or something like that, and they're half done, it tires you out. But like with the 6mm, I think I spent 6 hours on my 6mm army to paint them.
Yeah.
Probably a bit more with the commanders, but like the infantry, I spent like 4 hours on a night painting them and then finished them another night. And yeah, at 28mm. Looking at 28mm now, it's scary because there's so much more, so much more to paint. You put so much time into each model, and yeah, I don't know.
I got some things to ask you here on this little piece of paper I got. Top 5 historical eras / wars. What's your top 5? Interest wise, not even just wargaming wise. It could be, or just interest wise.
So I really like the Anglo-Zulu.
Would that be number 1?
I mean, my favourite film is
because Zulu, the movie Zulu alone.
That's my favourite film. So I mean, I would possibly.
It's so good.
I would say Anglo-Zulu, because I don't know. I think I don't know massive about it, but I mean, I've got a pith helmet up there, so
I do too. I do too.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, so Anglo-Zulu, I'd probably say definitely number 1. I really like World War One. Been looking at starting World War One miniatures at some point because, it just seems so.
You know.
Yeah.
That's the difficulty, I think, because I would already have. I have Flames of War.
Yeah.
This is where I really have left here, but I have some British guys. Whatever, I can't really see that, but
yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's because they've got Blood and Valor out now. Is that I can't remember who made it. Is it Farlock?
Flintlock Games.
Flintlock, that's it. Yeah. So
yeah, so they do the Blood and Plunder. Blood and Plunder.
So yeah, I really like the World War One stuff, and I was looking at even the Germans look incredible, like their uniforms and stuff back then. It's almost like World War One's a bit like. In my view, like a bit like the American Civil War, but just a bit moved on. Like I don't know why, I just haven't really got a love for Napoleonics. That's why I like the American Civil War, because they're getting away from that Napoleonic era, and then even World War One's even like
not enough. Too many people get killed.
Well, yeah, but it's that. Well, yeah, I don't know.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, that feel. So really like World War One as well. I like World War Two. I'd say, obviously, American Civil War. And then,
do you do any Flames of War bolt action? Any World War II thing?
Yeah, so I've got a bolt action army. I've played a handful of. My mate's got my bolt action rule set at the moment, but he's currently building up American powers. So I've got British army. He bought Russians, but he sold them on to his mate, and he's bought American powers now. So I played a couple of games of bolt action. I got a massive bolt action army. I actually signed up for a campaign weekend when they were doing Normandy landings. And yeah, and I signed up to that, but I couldn't go in the end. Yeah, because they want to do 2 days at the games club, and I was like, I can't really commit a whole weekend to doing that, especially with baby and stuff. So I was like, I'll do 1 day, and then I can't remember what happened. Now I had to cancel it, which I was gutted about really, because it looked really fun.
Maybe 1 day when you start showing some grey.
I mean, yeah, it's like they are long days, but you get 2 battles a day, which ain't too bad. But I did a Sharps practice one for Peninsular War, Peninsular campaign for Napoleonics, and that was really fun. And I only did 1 day again on that one, but I used my Highlanders, which is really cool. I think probably last year would be Ancients. So I really like the Republican Romans. Not so keen on Imperials because they're a bit too try-hardy by then, but like the early Republican Romans I think is cool.
Yeah.
So I'll say that's my 5. What would you say your top 5?
My top 5 would be 1, definitely World War II. World War II has just always been a fascination for me. Yeah. And then actually just recently in the past year and a half, American Civil War has jumped up to 2. And it was right behind World War II. It's one of my favorite, and that's just because I've just started to really get into it and study it over a period past year and a half. Napoleonics definitely 3 would be top 3, and then 4 and 5 would be a little bit hard to really pinpoint. think maybe something about feudal Japan, maybe.
Yeah.
Feudal Japan. I don't know what if it would be 4 or 5. Feudal Japan and not American War of Independence, because that's, I don't know. I don't really know much about the War of Independence. I do, but I don't.
The one thing that annoys me is
this question, but I wasn't even prepared for it.
the annoying thing about, for me, the American War of Independence that really puts me off it is just how awful the British are, like the British generals and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and every story I hear about it, I just slap my forehead with just how stupid the British are, and and it's almost frustrating because you think like the Americans are doing amazing, like doing really well, but the pure. Well, I guess back then that it all goes down to kind of like a bit like in the American Civil War. You got these political generals rather than military background generals. You got all these people that are given armies purely because of their title. And I think that kind of maybe potentially in the American Revolutionary War or War of Independence, where you just got the British who don't really know. They're not. It's almost like they're not really interested.
Yeah, they're not really given a full effort.
Or they assume the Americans aren't really going to put up much of a fight, and then it's only till they're in too deep they realise they've cocked it up. So, but
who was the commander in the beginning of the British? I forget.
There's a couple of names that ring a bell. It begins with C. One of them. I can't remember now.
Lord.
Let's Google it.
I cannot remember. It's crazy. I was just because I'm working on this series. I've read the first book of the American War of Independence, and it's by Philip something. I don't know. Anyway, it's pretty good though. It's a little bit harder to read because for a simple-minded folk like me, he writes very fancily. And it's a little hard to read through because you're like, dude, just speak English, even though he is English, or well, not English, but he's American. Lord Howe?
Yeah, I'm looking at Howe now. Yeah, Howe.
Yeah, funny story. His wife was from the colonies. She was American, and of course, Howe was from. This actually reminds me of a story I wanted to tell you. This is going to be a really funny story. But anyway, Howe is a very gentleman from a very prominent family in England. He has a large plantation and everything. And so when he was in charge of the garrison in Boston, he sends his wife, because they've been for years and years, they've been in the colonies, and they kind of, Lord Howe wants to get back home to England and everything like that. So they go back to England, stay there for a little bit, and then the colonies start revolting a little bit, especially in Boston, mostly in Boston. And they start doing goofy things and feathering people, which actually, if you read some books about it, it's pretty bloody. I would say how they tar and feather people. It's not like cartoons. It's definitely really bad. But anyway, so he gets sent back over to the colonies to take care of it and is in charge of the Boston garrison. And then after a while over there, he sends a letter to his wife saying, hey, let's get divorced. I don't want anything about this. I'm just going to do my own thing. You just hang out over there. But when he sends it out, though, she's on the boat already on the way over. She's in the Atlantic already coming over, and he doesn't even know that. She didn't say anything that she was leaving to come back over. So when she shows up, she doesn't know about the letter, and he sent the letter home, and his family is like, "Buh, you want a divorce? That's not okay with us because we're, old-fashioned." And he's just like, "Don't say anything about it. It didn't happen." I thought it's really funny. And there's a story and it's right after America won independence, and they sent I forget what his name was, but anyway, a person of great importance to the government and everything, and he, like a foreign minister, I guess, and he went over to England to do business with the king and to start figuring out how we're gonna, with the crown and the new America, the United States, to set things right. And so he's over there as a guest at this lord's house, right? Have you heard anything about this?
No.
Okay, you're gonna like this. It's a little bit biased towards Americans, but it's. So he's over at this English lord's house since when he's over there doing business in England, and he invites him over with all these other British gentlemen and everything, and they're having a party a little bit. They're in the parlor there, or whatever you would call it, the dining table, drinking and laughing and just discussing whatever. And the Lord's sitting there in his high chair, and what's his name? The American has to go to the bathroom, so he excuses himself, goes into the water closet, I think is what you guys call it, and when he walks in, there's a portrait of George Washington in the water closet, in the bathroom. And so he did what he had to do, and he left, and he came back to the table, and everybody was kind of waiting. All the British were waiting to see if he would say anything about it, right? And he doesn't say anything. And so after a while, the Lord gets impatient, and he asks him, he goes, "Did you notice the painting of George Washington in the water closet?" And he goes, "Yes, I did." And he goes, "Well, do you think it was appropriate? Do you think the placement was appropriate?" And he goes, "Yes, I think I do." And he, appropriate? And he goes, "Yep, where it will do much service because everybody knows that nothing will make an Englishman's ship faster than the sight of George Washington."
Yeah.
And that's an actual true story.
Yeah.
I love that story. I love it.
No, yeah. It's quite, it's funny having well, I haven't even really heard of it. It's bizarre, really. But maybe that's because I haven't really put much into the American Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
But again,
I haven't.
It's funny that you've got that almost the same sort of characters as well. It's always funny what comes out of it. Stories like that.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of funny because it seems like a joke that's out of its time period. Yeah. So, but anyway, those would be my top 5 though. Is World War II definitely with bolt action. I have a lot of bolt action. I'm working on some Fallschirmjäger right now.
Nice, yeah.
And so second, Napoleonics, which if I didn't mention yet, when I get those Napoleonics, I'm going to do a 24-hour live stream probably.
Oh yeah, yeah. You did mention it. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, from opening them up to getting them all based and everything, and showing how I do things and everything like that, and then painting them up and stuff. So
nice.
That'll be a lot of fun. Hopefully next weekend or something like that they'll be here. But if not, then I'll do it on some weekend or whatever. My weekends are pretty free, so. But I think that would be a cool thing for the community. I don't think anybody's really done it, so.
No, oh, yeah. I would say I'd do it with my
participation and all that.
I would say I'd do it with my American Civil War, but I don't think I could stay up for 24 hours. I'd lose interest quite quick.
Well, I've done a lot of 24 hours for radio on radio for charity and stuff. Which it's funny. I've always told people, because they're always like, "How can you do that?" I'm like, well, yeah, do it, but at the same time though, from the first hour when you're on the radio to the last hour is completely different, because you're on the first, you're like, "Hey, what's going on? We got the 24-hour show. It's gonna be a long haul." And then at the last hour, you're like, "Okay, so we're here. We've got some people in the studio, and we got one more hour left." But yeah. Another question is, I know that people, when they paint, they usually, when it comes to historical and stuff, they usually don't paint with black, just flat black. instead of doing off black, because in the real world, naturally, there's not really a black color. You know, do you actually paint black, like on your bolt action or something? Like if you do the German straps and everything, do you actually do black for the straps, boots and stuff?
I mean, yeah, I did, to be honest. But I mean, I've been looking for. Maybe it's just me being lazy, but I've been looking for an off black for ages because I don't like using black anyway. Because again, that whole
I don't like it either, but I haven't found one that.
Yeah, I mean,
an off black.
I don't like mixing. I like kind of having consistency in colours, so I don't want to have to mix a black up every time. But I use black.
I hate mixing.
But then if I use a non-wash over the top of it, I try just dull it down slightly.
I'm no Bob Ross. I hate mixing.
Yeah.
I just like the colors how they are.
Exactly. Because also, like, so something I did this time with my American Civil War. Well, not that matters. I've written down all my paint schemes because the amount of times I've started armies and I haven't written down what paint I've used, and then you come back to a unit in.
I have everything in here because after a year or so, when you paint something and then you stop painting that, or maybe you buy another box and you're like, hey, I got to paint another batch of these guys. You're gonna forget the colors easily.
Well, I've got my I've got some more Highlanders over there, which I don't know how I'm going to paint them because, well, it's not too much. It's only really the straps because I can't remember what paint I used. So, what's that?
Napoleonics.
Yeah, so my Highlander Napoleonics. I did do a video on them, showing them off ages ago.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So,
especially camo and everything, because I did a whole batch of SS.
Yeah.
And then I sold them because I don't know, I didn't really like how they came out. But I got some pictures here.
P-Dot?
I'll show them on the live stream here.
Is it called P-Dot or something like that? I can't remember.
There's a ton of different types. There's like oak leaf and everything. Here's some pictures of the SS that I did. I don't know if you can see it. You probably can't see it, but
I'm on the live stream now, so I'll see it. There's like a slight delay, so I'll just wait.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So just some ones that I did. Some SS.
Yeah, I can see it in a sec. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And those I did that lot right there. So, but I sold them though. I feel like I could do better. But
the woodland camo looks really cool.
But I know I did pretty good with them though. But what happened? Oh.
I mean, I've said it before in my videos. I'm kind of a believer of the kind of tabletop standard, or so. Maybe it's a lazier way of doing it, but rather than pouring, like I've got a mate who's incredible at painting and he does amazing work. But if you ask him to do a big army, he just won't do it because he knows it's so much work. Whereas me, I can, like my American Civil War, I've painted over 100 miniatures, I think. I mean, it took time, but I didn't blow my brains out because I was that fed up.
Yeah, well, I'm a perfectionist, so doing something half-assed really bothers me, and I've kind of practiced that, working on that a little bit with the 6mm because I don't have to put every single button on there. I don't have to do every single badge or anything like that. I mean, with my Civil War guys, I didn't even paint the shoes or anything like that because you ain't gonna see it. Yeah. So that's helped me. But when it comes to bolt action, though, everything matters. Everything counts.
Yeah, I mean, I just looked at it realistically. I kind of said it was the first time I did it was really probably the American Civil War because like my Highlanders, I did put a bit of time in. So like my American Civil War stuff, I haven't layered or anything. I've done base coats, I've washed it, and that was it. And I kind of said to myself in my 28mm, I said, what do I want to do? Like, not necessarily half-assing, but I kind of said, what do I want to achieve? I want to achieve quite a big army. I want the army to look good enough to play with, and I want to play it pretty ASAP. And then and a nice simple paint scheme, rather than spending hours and hours and hours on. And with my American Civil War, I've basically built up 2 armies for sharps practice. So if I want to play sharps practice now, I can just play someone an army to play with, and I thought I don't want to pile loads of time into it. But then, if you know what you want to do going into a project, a bit like the 6mm, I looked at Project Wargaming, I think it was, and he did a video on how he painted his 6mm, and I basically copied his paint scheme. Not using the same paints, but that same style, because I said, what do I want to do in this project? And I said, I want to get them looking alright, and 6mm's a bit more flattering when it comes to painting, but I said I want to get loads done and look okay. You know, I'm not going to win any awards, but I'm not interested in that. But then, like I said, my friend, who's incredible at painting, he wants his army to look amazing.
Yeah.
But then I painted up in some German grenadiers for bolt action, because he had 30 of them and he just didn't want to do them. But I painted up my Brits and I did them quite quick and they look okay. Yeah. And he said, do you mind doing it for me? So I just painted them up for him, and I said, I don't mind doing it. Maybe I put a bit more time into that. I kind of highlighted and stuff, but again, he's not going to paint 30 Germans up because it would take him weeks. Whereas it took me like...
It's the same thing here. I got stuff from these Fallschirmjäger I bought last year.
Yeah.
So when I was doing I bought them actually when I was doing my D-Day board that I was building. Have you ever seen my videos on the D-Day?
Yeah, I did,
yeah. Another question I have is, what's a period that someday you want to get into and start learning about, and also painting up and really get into it like you're doing right now with the Civil War?
So I've got like a potential. I was looking at starting a project which would be French Indian. Just because, I don't know, maybe I just like the look of like having an Indian army, which would be really cool. Like, but I don't know really.
Indians.
Yeah, no, like I don't know. They just seem quite cool and they'd be quite fun to paint up. But I think I've covered most of the eras and wars that I want to. Like I've got ancient Romans. I wanted to start like an ancient Greek army, but again that's ancient, so that's already covered. What have I got? World War II. Yeah, I'm not sure what else I'd want to look into really. Maybe War of Independence, purely just because you've still got that kind of flashy uniforms, which would be quite cool. But
with the Trihorn hats, you can really paint them up to be anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can even paint them up to be like, oh gosh, Prussians. With that, like not Alexander the Great. You know who I'm talking about. What's his name?
No idea.
Oh my goodness. You know who I'm talking about, people watching. I can't believe I forgot his name. Frederick the Great. My goodness.
Oh, right, okay.
Frederick the Great.
I wouldn't have
It's the Prussian. Yeah. I've noticed as I've gotten older, because like when I was younger, sort of, I guess in my teenage years, I switched from certain things, certain topics so rapidly. It could be like, and they could be from a couple of days to a week to a handful of weeks to a month, and then I'll switch to something different. I can't stick on anything for so long, right? So it's really hard for me to focus on something and get some stuff done, because it's like, well, I got to get some stuff done because next week I could be in some sort of mood and I'll watch the movies, I'll play the video games or whatever, if there are video games out there, and then I'll paint the miniatures and really be immersed into it, but that's just how I work, so it's kind of like a race against time every single time, so it's really hard for me to get into something. But I don't know, once I got into my 20s, I noticed that a certain change of when I do that, I don't just sort of get into the things and watch the movies and all that and just kind of be immersed. I really actually start diving into information and like want to educate myself on it instead of just watch some cool Vietnam movies and paint some Vietnam guys and then move on, I don't know, just because I'm getting older or something like that, but now I'm starting to read books, which I never used to be a book reader, but now I'm starting to get into it, and I'm starting to really wanting to understand what happened and everything. And that's the Civil War was the first thing that really I started doing something like that with, and that's why I'm semi-knowledgeable. I mean, I'm not an expert by far, but I understand it. And so I think the Napoleonics I'm working on right now. I've been reading the books and everything, and from about a month ago, what I learned about the Napoleonics and what I knew about it was nothing. I had no idea. I did not know anything besides like generalization. I didn't even know who like Kutuzov and certain people like. I knew Blucher and all that, but I didn't know.
All of a sudden, you're putting more stories.
Like Davout or Bagration or like the certain generals. I didn't really know anything about that at all, and now I'm starting to learn all this stuff. And so I think the one that I would want to get into at a later time, whenever that may be, when I'm maybe done with the Napoleonics, though, is ancient. I really want to get into Roman, build a Roman army, do all the big goals and.
Would you do 6 mil?
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, I thought about doing a Republican 6 mil army because I got 28 mil Republicans, but again, it's having the people who play it. I know, like I said, me and you, we like just collecting armies because it's nice having these armies you can look at.
I don't know what they play with,
But I'm
just
kind
me
of.
Over here.
I started off collecting just to collect and paint and build an army and just look at it. But now I'm starting to think the armies have more value. I can justify spending more money on an army if I go out and play with it.
Yeah.
Because then I'm actually getting enjoyment out of it. Like it's a bit like I compare it to if I buy a game on Steam or something like that on my computer, and if I put 200 hours into it and I spend 30 quid on it, how much is it costing me an hour? How much that game cost me an hour, sort of thing. And it's kind of thing. The more you use something, it's paid for itself almost. So, and then therefore I can justify buying more if I want to. So that's how I look at it. That's why I want to kind of look. If I'm looking at the next project, I kind of think, will I be able to play with this?
Yeah. Are you going to get a use out of it besides just sitting there? Oh, I had to pay all this. Hopefully, it's worth something. Yeah.
And that's the problem. I'd love to just build an army and just put it on display and just look at it every now and then, but I feel like if I put the effort in, I want to be able to use it. And my big thing, what I want to do some like battle reports, and I thought it'd be cool to put it like Altar of Freedom. There's very little online of battle reports on Altar of Freedom.
Yeah,
like, there is videos out there, but not a lot. And it'd be nice to kind of, because I think certain rule sets probably deserve a bit more attention, and it'd be nice to do something like that.
I feel the same way. I feel sort of it's a duty with like Adler, because there's like a huge, wide span array of Bacchus miniature videos out there, but there's barely any Adler at all. So
but surprisingly, there's not. Like you said, there is quite a bit of Bacchus, but again, there isn't because people don't really play 6 mil. They do and they don't, but 28 mil is so dominant. If I search up ancient Roman miniatures, you'll have 28 mil. You won't have smaller scales. It'd be 28 mil.
If I was somebody else, I wouldn't, put the standard at 6 millimeter.
Yeah. Well, But going back to my choosing the American War of Independence as potential next project, or like the Native Americans, I kind of look at it as what armies have I got and what army I could collect that would be different.
Mm-hmm.
And because I could start another Napoleonic army, but then I've got 2 armies that are in the same era, the same kind of feel to them. But it'd be nice to kind of start a new army that's just so different, and it's just a new something fresh in the thing.
I'd love to do. I can't find any miniatures for it, but the Indian American War would be cool, and also the Zulu Wars, which Bacchus has a lot of miniatures for it.
Little Wars TV did Islawana.
Yeah, that was just so jealous.
I don't know who is that Bacchus they used.
Yeah. I think they sponsored that video.
Did they? Oh, nice. I've got some Anglo-Zulu British 28mm. I bought from Perry's. I think that could have been my first ever historicals I bought. It was either that or my World War II British. Got a crying baby. So yeah, I think it was the Angus. Yeah, they're really cool. I never really painted them though because it was back when I was rubbish at painting, and all of a sudden I got like red. I always found it quite tough to paint red, white as well.
Red's very difficult.
Yeah, and then I had white as well, and that's quite. Admittedly, now you've got like contrast, like using a contrast paint, which I used for my.
Yeah, you use Citadel, don't you?
Yeah, so I've tried to go elsewhere,
and I went to Vallejo.
Yeah.
And that's my primary.
The only thing. The reason why I use Citadel is because when I started, I used Citadel, so I got so much Citadel, and I went through a mad stage of buying loads of paints, and that's kind of before I started going to like my games club that supply all different. They've got like 4 different manufacturers of paints that they sell. So it wasn't until then I started looking. I was like, oh right, so there is more options, but because I bought so much Citadel,
the usual Citadel, Vallejo, Army Painter,
yeah. And
Reaper,
they've got another one,
P3.
and maybe another one. They've got another 2.
P3.
Reaper. This is a range they've got.
I've never even heard of that.
No, so it's cheap. But what I bought this for the ground, doing basing.
Oh, I have the same stuff sorta. It's just.
But I think that was almost half price of a Citadel paint, and it's a lot of paint and.
Yeah, well, this is like something cents, 90 cents or something like that at
Yeah.
And I use this for basing as well.
So that's
any type of terrain.
They've got like that range of paint, which I don't know if I'd want to paint with it, but I bought 2 different colours for basing. So yeah, but at the moment I'm kind of stuck in the. If I have to replace a paint, I kind of need to buy Citadel again because I don't trying to figure out what paints merge with what. I don't know. And I like Citadel. I really like Citadel. I wouldn't want to move off of.
How are we doing on time?
Yeah, we've probably got to call it there. I've probably got to do dad duties now.
One last thing. Have
you
ever seen the movie The Death of Stalin?
Well, I don't think I have, but I recognise a lot of the scenes, so I think maybe I have watched it at some point. I don't know.
Okay. I watched it a few months ago. I thought it was the most hilarious, one of the most hilarious things I ever watched because I love the whole Soviet KGB, NKVD sort of spooky stuff that happened. Of course, you have somebody like Joe Pesci that's in it. Of course, I'm a big, huge fan of the Monty Python. I love Monty Python. And it's got my favorite guy, not Eric Idle, but Palin. I think Palin. What's his name?
Michael Palin.
Michael Palin. He's my favorite, and he's in it, and it's somewhat historically accurate. But man, is it funny? And if you like Monty Python, which is, of course, there's just a ton of satire shoved down your throat. This is nothing but Soviet satire, so it's really funny. So
I really like the scene when obviously Stalin's dying, and you got the 2 guards out the front of the room, and they don't want to go in.
Check on him, and shut your mouth.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, I like that.
And just a quick thing I'll show on here. If you haven't watched it, watch this documentary called The Bomb. It was on for free on Amazon Prime, but you have to rent it now. But it's a documentary by PBS, which does an amazing job. But it's about the atomic. It goes from basically the Manhattan Project, which it's a great documentary. It's one of my favorites I've ever seen, and it's great. They talk about the Manhattan Project, how it started and everything, and how out of like hundreds of people, of Americans that were watched and made sure that they didn't, give any information out. Stalin knew because of just 2 people, 2 communists that were in the whole project that sent back information.
Yeah.
And then goes through the testing of them when they, I guess they got all of these boats from after the war, all these Japanese boats, Italian and British, and they all put them around these Pacific islands in the middle of nowhere, and then did testing of nuclear bombs in the waters and everything. And the water comes up onto the ships. The guys go on the ships, and then they realize, oh,
Radiated.
the water's radioactive. Now the ships are radioactive. Now we're radioactive because we're all on the ships. And now when we go back to the ships, we're all radioactive. And now our ships are radioactive with everybody there. And they realize that after everything's already been done and they're already back. So
there was that one, I can't remember all of it. It was a British ship, and basically they were guinea pigs. They'd have to not sail really close to a nuclear blast, but they were they all loaded up on this ship, and they were so far back, and then they just set up a bomb.
I think it was literally the Allies. The Allies.
Yeah, it was just them seeing what the effects would be.
Blowing shit up in the Pacific.
Yeah. And then they would just see if they would get radiated from that far away. It was bizarre.
Yeah.
But
that's one I would watch.
I'll give it a look.
But anyway,
right.
So all right. Well, thanks for watching
episode
3. We tried to cut this one short and stayed on topic, which I think we did a mighty good job.
Just over an hour, not too bad.
Yeah. So all right. Thanks for watching us, and maybe next week we'll have another episode, or maybe in the next 2 weeks. So we'll see.
Yep.
But anyways, hopefully everybody's doing okay out there with what's going on, and stick in there and
keep watching
post more videos. I want to see some more content coming out. So
I'm watching everyone's content, because there's obviously, I imagine there's going to be everyone releasing stuff now. So because they're all going to be spending a lot of time at home. So
make more videos, Nick. Make some more videos. I want to see some more Napoleonic videos. So all right, see you guys.
Righto, cheers guys.